light from the TV person. So we will get started, and we will start by reading the mission statement of the Lake Mills Area School District is preparing all of today's students for tomorrow's opportunities. And has the meeting been posted properly?
Yes, it was posted on the LMASD website and at the Lake Mills Post Office and submitted to the Lake Mills Leader.
All right, with that, I will then call this meeting to order, and I will invite all those who are able to rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And then I will request a roll call for attendance.
Brianna Beslick. Here. Ken Eimers.
Here.
Andrea Graham.
Here.
Kirk Lund.
Here.
Amy Litcher.
Here. Then moving on for the agenda revision / approval, are there any revisions that a board member would like to make to the proposed agenda?
I'll move the board approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote. Oh, yeah, I need it.
Ken Eimers.
Aye.
Andrea Graham. Aye. Kirk Lund.
Aye.
Brianna Beslick.
Aye.
Amy Litcher.
All right. You hear? Yes. Starting the meeting now, again, we will move on to board reports and present Michaela Kennedy, our student representative.
All right, so there's not too much going on around school right now, but with sports starting up, it's getting a little more crazy, but it was pretty quiet for a while. But the juniors had the ACT last Tuesday, and then the sophomores went on a college tour. I know my grade didn't get to do that during sophomore year, but I do think that's a really cool idea, so I'm happy they get to do that. And then earlier this month, there was an NHS induction ceremony to celebrate all the new junior inductees, and then us present NHS members got our stoles, so that was exciting. And then there was also a band concert, which I didn't get a chance to go to, but I heard it was pretty great. Track, softball, baseball, and soccer are all in session now. And then golf is starting here soon, I believe, after spring break. Softball has a game in Palmyra tomorrow, the 19th, and then there's a meet in Beaver Dam on Friday the 22nd and Saturday the 23rd for track. And then this Friday is also the end of the quarter before spring break, so we're all finishing up our tests and getting our grade finalized for quarter 3, which I'm very excited for spring break. And then lastly, I know seniors have their portfolios due tomorrow, which at first I thought was a little kind of like busy work, but now that I have it all together, I'm very happy that they make us do it to graduate, because it's really cool to see like all of the things we've accomplished and reflect on all the things we've done in high school. So I'm actually really happy we get to do that. So that's about it for this month.
All right.
Just a question for you. I had wanted to go to that softball game, but I couldn't. Do you happen to know if is that fast pitch or slow pitch? Or?
It's fast pitch,
It's
right?
fast pitch.
Yeah.
Fast pitch? Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm guessing that after this meeting, if it's not already done, you're going to quick go home and finish up the portfolio.
I actually haven't finished.
Oh, super. Well, then relax. All right. Next up is Mr. Eimers and the clerk, correspondence.
Yes, thank you. There is correspondence from Brian and Andrea Fritsch, who are the children of Doug Fritsch. Doug was a high school history teacher in Lake Mills for 27 years. His children also attended the district. The correspondence reads, to the Lake Mills Board of Education, thank you very much for your gift to the library in honor of our dad. He was so proud of his time teaching at the high school and being an active member of the greater school community. We appreciate your remembering him. With gratitude, Brian and Andrea.
All right. All right, if there's nothing else, then we will move into the administrative report section, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Olson.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to introduce Officer Jessica Johnson, our school resource officer, and Alexa Halverson, who is our middle school Phi Ed teacher, who also have some students with them. They're going to present on their work through the DARE program.
Thank you. Why don't I'll go ahead and I'll introduce the kiddos in just a minute, and then if you guys have questions about my PowerPoint, I won't keep them. But I just wanted to explain to you our 7th grade service project that we did this year. Myself and Ms. Rush talked, what? Halverson, sorry. You're always going to be Ms. Rush. It's hard to change. We had talked last year about kind of changing up the 7th grade program, so we incorporated a service project. And so we took the entire 7th grade class up to Trinity Pines for a morning of fun and excitement with the seniors there. We had a great time. And so I also brought 2 students, Bianca Swain and Rowan Schultz, to kind of answer some of the questions or tell you guys a little bit more about the service project. Do you want to come on up?
Hello, I'm Rowan Schultz.
I'm Bianca Swain.
So what we did is we had the kids vote on a service project idea, and what they voted on was to go to the senior citizen home and do some different things there. We had like 4 or 5 different stations, including crafts and games. We played cards. We made Christmas ornaments. We had a station where they just got to converse with some of the seniors and sit down and actually ask them questions and hear their stories. And then they also did some projects around the building, including cleaning and some small like household chores, breaking down cardboard boxes. Bianca can tell you she actually hooked up a TV for one of the residents. Lots of different fun things. And then we capped it off by having a pizza party for everybody there. So it was really fun. I don't know if you have any questions for anybody or for them.
What was your favorite part of the service project?
I really like just like hanging out with all of them and getting to learn more about like the crazy stories that they told when they were younger.
Yeah, I'd say probably just talking with some of the seniors and learning about how it used to be and how it is now. It's just world's difference.
Sounds like it was a lot of fun and educational.
Yeah, I just want to comment, I think it's a great concept, the service project, kind of mixing generations together and finding common things. And so thanks for picking that, basically.
Sure. One of the things we did is we had the kids write a gratitude journal every day when I was there, and talking about things they were thankful for and what somebody did to make them feel good and so forth, and just kind of incorporated into this to make other people feel good. Sorry. I apologize. So it just kind of worked together really well. We even had t-shirts made for all the kids, so it was pretty fun to show our LCAP pride.
Just curious, what were the other options that were voted on?
We had talked about doing like different things with the Humane Society, like dog washes, things like that, doing fundraisers in the Commons Park for the Humane Society. I think one of the other things was like a community cleanup at some of the parks and things like that. But I think the senior one won out by way far.
And then why was 7th grade kind of the chosen grade for the service project? Could you see this expanding to other grade levels possibly?
Go ahead.
Every year, Officer Johnson, so she does DARE with the 5th graders, but she comes into my 7th grade health class. So I think 7th grade is the grade that's chosen because we work together in the beginning half of the year. A lot of the great curriculum and the health curriculum go hand in hand, and to build that community piece with Officer Johnson and build that relationship, I think it fits well with 7th grade. I think it's a great opportunity for everybody, but it just went right into our program.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
If there was a second choice, what would you guys have chosen?
I would have chosen just community cleanup because I just want to help out and just make this town a little cleaner.
Oh,
Yeah, probably the same because I don't remember what all the options were.
Sounds good. Well,
Well, I do have to say that family members and friends in other towns definitely commented when they saw this in the news. And so I think that's great to see that, like you said, cross-generational community building, and then to inspire other communities and children in other communities to kind of do the same and reach out to, their other generations within their community. So nice work.
thank you so much. All right. And then, thinking,
Did you have any other questions about my PowerPoint stuff or my presentation, Dr. Olson?
I didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to highlight on the slideshow.
I think one of the biggest ones would be my training, if you can go to that screen. Oh, he has it? I think it just said training. Right there, perfect. So I attended the mental health first aid training that was put on by Mr. Woodford and Melissa Brown from the, I always get it wrong, PCOW is all I know what it is, Jamie, I'm sorry. That they put on before the actual school year started with some of the other teachers and paras. And then I attended a youth justice summit, which would be, it's with kids who are put into the youth criminal justice system when I send a juvenile referral if they're adjudicated delinquent. And then I went to a class on diversity and inclusion matters up at Appleton, and that was a really informative class. And then every month, I attend several different meetings on children in crisis, and also our monthly meetings at the school with our student support team. So I think that's probably one of the highlights. I do have my next presentation coming up. I will have 2 or 3 different conferences that I will go to, so I'll be able to report on those as well. Yes?
What were the highlights for you from the Diversity and Inclusion Matters course?
I think hearing what other school districts are kind of struggling with as far as making sure that everybody is treated equally. And I really felt like we were a step above where some of the other jurisdictions were that were included in that. And it basically, I guess the biggest thing I got out of it was to not focus on like the infraction, the offense, but more so what led up to that. Like, look at the person as a whole. How come they did this? Look at why they behaved this way, that kind of thing, not the actual incident. That was one of the biggest things I got.
Thank you.
other questions?
I was going to ask, one of the things that I noticed when you kind of broke down the incident by type was social media, and I guess I don't really know what that all entails for you, but wondering if there might be some co-curricular work that might be able to be done with library media and the safety behind all of that, if that's not already happening?
So I do, when I teach the 4th graders, I do part of the NetSmarts curriculum, which is by the FBI and the NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They have a whole curriculum, and I pick 2 or 3 sections of that I do give to the 4th graders. I have not really done anything more with the 5th or 7th graders. I think it's important, and something that obviously I think we should delve more into because we do see a lot of social media issues, but yeah.
Okay. Are there any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. I'll just conclude my portion of the report. Thank you. So we did have our last, or one of our last CAT team meetings last week, so just reporting out that work has begun on the survey development that will go out to the community here in about 2 to 3 weeks. So our group of 42 CAT members worked together to create a base plan to present on the survey to the community to see what kind of support there would be to do some remodeling and then also taking care of quite a few deferred maintenance needs. So, and then there'll be 2 to 3 additional questions that will kind of test like, okay, does the community also find this important? Should this be included also into the base plan? So we're actively working with school perceptions this week. We're expecting to have the survey finalized by Thursday afternoon. That will go to an outside examiner just to look for any kind of, punctuation things on Monday, and then go to staff on Monday, April 8th, I believe, and then it will be April 15th out to the community and should land in mailboxes that week and run till about May 6th. So from then, once the board gets the survey results, we'll bring that back into a committee meeting along with our CAT team members, and we'll have school perceptions, analyze the results to see what kind of support there is in the community to take care of some of those facility needs that we've been experiencing in the district.
And from just a recap of the draft, it's a very draft survey right now, but it's in the format of kind of presenting the 50, it's a base plan of what the CAT team had recommended, 51 point blah, blah, blah. But I think it's
At point two.
point two, and if the community would support that or not, and what they would say that if they don't, what they would want to take out. And then also some additional projects to add on to that 51, if they would be willing to support these extra projects in addition to the base plan. So that's if you would like to see a draft, and again, it's placeholders from other, it's placeholders here and there, but if you'd like to see a draft before it is finalized.
Yeah, I plan to send that
Okay.
out on Thursday once it's not close enough. But yes, you will see that
Okay.
Thursday by the time we finish up our work. Should note that with that 51.2 million, we're looking at about a 12 cents per thousand tax impact. So very, very minimal tax impact for the amount of work that could be completed through this.
So,
And then I guess, any other questions about the CAT team meeting? Otherwise, do you want me to talk about the art, or do you want to?
We have some wonderful middle school art that has been set up for general pleasure and of the school board as well as the public. And there's some fantastic pieces, and there's every piece I know I could not do. So
I'll second that.
the level of those middle school art students for sure is well above my abilities, so.
Many thanks to Carrie Ann Kirking, our middle school art teacher, who did the work, and then Ryan Peterson also for carrying the displays over and helping to get that set up as well. So I know she put a lot of time and effort into getting that, and just did it on a volunteer basis.
So that's representing a high standard of our art in schools as well as our students' abilities and capabilities. So wonderful. All right, if there's nothing else, then we'll move on to Mrs. Everson.
There's a slideshow coming, right? Good evening. Thank you for having us here to present on social emotional learning updates and some of the goals we've been working on. Alongside me, I have Renee Mitchell, our high school English teacher, and Rachel Dickett, our high school counselor, and they're also on our comprehensive school mental health team. They're not the whole team, as you saw probably as you went through the presentation, but a couple of staff here to help talk about the work we've been doing. I learned right away with the team that they were ready to hit the ground running. They have an established SEL team at the high school, and I think that led to us looking at data quickly and establishing the direction we wanted to go faster than expected. And we'll be talking more about this throughout the presentation, but we've been working all year long on some really important goals. Just to talk a little bit about the outline of our presentation, we have the work around our comprehensive school mental health team. We'll talk about the team members, the timeline that we've been working on, the theory of improvement, which will really helped shape the goal that we designed, and then the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycles that we've been doing monthly. And then we'll move into the school-based mental health services, which is the goal number two that we have, which we'll talk deeper about the on-site school therapist, and I know Jessica brought up PCAL, that's the Psychotherapy Center of Wanakee, who we partner with. And we'll talk about the data collection and then action steps that we have as a team. Was I going in and out? Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks.
I'm going to briefly talk about the team. I think one strength of the team is the fact that Jamie recognized that we did have an established high school SEL, social emotional learning team. And I think that that balanced with the fact that we have such good representation really is what enabled us to hit the ground running, as she said. We have representatives from the admin team, including Jamie and Justin Annan, our Dean of Students. From Student Services team, we have both high school counselors, Rachel Dickett, Carmen Weldon, and our school psychologist, Alyssa Van Caster. And then I was really pleased to be asked to be the regular education representative as a high school English teacher. And then we have special education represented too with Michael Roherty. And I think the fact that we've been doing some of this work really helped us feel like we were able to guide where we were going because we had already started the journey a little bit. So we appreciated that. I'll walk you through the timeline on the next slide. Thank you. Actually, I'm sorry. This is Rachel. She's going to walk you through the timeline.
So in August, we met as a team first to go through this SHAPE system, which kind of just dives into what we do and don't do within our mental health system at school. It really kind of showed some strengths that we had across the tiers, so tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and then some of the gaps that we had, which is what led us to our comprehensive school mental health team. Our big in-person day was probably one of the highlights for me. We sat in the Dells, worked as a team, and we came up with some amazing ideas and plans and like very step-by-step. I think those 2 days in person really broke it down for us to be able to walk through and see it very clearly. The monthly check-ins were super helpful and still are super helpful to keep us on track and what we're doing every single time we meet with the PDSAs, just to kind of outline and see what we're doing and keep us focused on our goals. We have one more in-person training day that will kind of like not wrap up, but like kind of ball up all that we're doing and just to kind of see what we're going to do towards the end of May, maybe into the summer, and what work we need to do moving forward within our school. So the timeline has been super helpful for us just to keep a clear path.
We're just going to keep switching back and forth a little bit. We wanted to walk you through the theory of improvement that we learned about in the Dells in the fall. The Academy taught us to first start with the data, and we were really fortunate that we had collected quite a bit of data to dig through. We used the YRBS, which is the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, which is a biannual survey, so we were able to dig back as far as we wanted to, but we kept that fairly current. And our current SEL team at the high school is already set in place to survey students 3 times a year. So we were able to use that data as well. When we were there, they guided us through looking at that data in order to set a goal and determine our biggest needs. And at that time, we were able to see that 80% of our students feel like they belong at school. And we knew, we're going to talk more about it in a little bit, that would connect with our building goals. So we sought to increase that. And in order to increase that, we were able to establish drivers and our primary drivers to help make sure students have healthy connections that make them feel safe and that they matter. After that, we established that we needed to make sure that access to mental health supports was something that every staff member was aware of, so that we can all be guiding students in the right direction. Whether it's a need for more specialized training, which would be a referral, or if it's something like a student dealing with some test anxiety. And that's something that a classroom teacher can definitely help support. We finished off our 2 days in the Dells by really looking at what our goal was going to be, and that's been what's been our driving force at every monthly meeting we've attended. And that's our desire to build a resource map that our entire building can use, and we're even going to explore ways to share with stakeholders outside of the building as well, such as parents or other individuals who support students.
So again, using the youth risk behavior survey. Yes, I did it right. And our student surveys that we give 3 times a year. It was a kind of a no-brainer to kind of combine those since we're already collecting that data on a regular basis, and we'll do the YRBS again. So that was our goal, is to make sure that all students feel connected or have some sort of connection to an adult. It makes it very important in a great learning environment for students when they have somebody that they can trust and that they can feel supported by, even if it's just one staff member, one bus driver, one custodian. So that was definitely a goal that we had with our comprehensive school mental health, and then also our building goal is that we kind of came up with as our SAL team, so it was really perfect to combine the two. So by the end of the 2023-24 school year, 90% of our students will feel like they have an adult that they can talk to within the district, is our SEL goal and kind of our comprehensive school mental health goal.
So back to the work that the Academy helped guide us through. This was something as a public educator that was very new to me, but it reminded me of things that my husband will talk about as working in the private sector, what drives work. So they walked us through this PDSA cycle. PDSA stands for plan, I don't want to mess it up, plan, do, study, and act. So plan is where we create the goal we're going to have for a cycle. And typically a cycle is a month, but working within the school year, sometimes we have to tweak those time increments a little bit. And the first thing we do after we plan is we implement the plan. So our plans have included things like surveying a selection of staff, surveying the entire staff, so that we can really be sure we're working on the right track. As far as study, it's built into the cycle after we've completed these surveys and whatnot, that we come together as a group and say, let's look at our results. And what do our results indicate? Where do we need to focus our next steps? And then the PDSA cycle completes or finishes with ACT. And when we get to ACT, that's where we have a decision to make. Are we going to adopt this plan and continue this work? Do we need to adapt? Does the plan need to be rearranged or redefined? Or do we just completely abandon the plan and take a new tactic? And it's been really rewarding to see that this has been driving our work each month. On the right, you can see what our goals have been, our steps have been for each month. And we're currently, I have a feeling April's going to look a lot like March. We're currently working on our draft of the resource map that we're creating. And we're excited, hopefully, to be able to present it to the rest of the staff by the end of the school year. Is that me still? Still me, sorry. On the next plan, you can see our action step. I think it's really important to note that our PDSA work runs concurrently with the work that our SEL team is already doing at the high school. The SEL team provides lessons for students within the framework of our existing advisory system on a set day each week, so that every week there is some topic or task that we're addressing and working with students on. And because that work already has the built-in surveys, we've used that to kind of organize this team's work. The mental health action team then uses those survey results to continue our work. Following each time we survey the students, the team gets together to review the data. And one of the things we're looking at specifically is for students who indicate that there might be some cause for concern, that they're not feeling a connection. And then we've also need to submit questions or concerns, and then those were anonymously answered, such as what would you do in a certain situation? Or if I have a student struggling with XYZ, what are some steps we can take to support them? And that was some really good information to add to everything we're building.
So like we said before, we partner with Psychotherapy Center of Waunakee, or PCOW, we have 3 school-based mental health providers, which was a huge increase from the 1.5-ish we had in the last year. In 2021-22 school year, we only had 1. So this has been a really huge increase. Began with 1, now we have 3 at the high school. They see about 6 of our students, I believe. And it kind of varies between once a week, every other week. Sometimes it kind of goes back and forth. So between those 6 students, They do receive their services in a private location within our school, where no students usually have access to see. And then anybody can make the referral, parents, students. Usually when it's a staff that refers, we work with the family members to like make sure we have to get the release and talk about the concerns with the family as well. So, but anyone can make a referral. And it's been a huge blessing to have PCAL in our system to help with our students who might have just a little bit more of a mental health need than what the schools can provide, or just need a little bit more support on top of what we can provide as well. So they have been a really, really big blessing to have at our school.
So we have 6 students seeing 3 therapists?
We have 3 therapists, and then between the 3, they see one of our 6. So one might have 3 students that they see, the other one has 2, one might have, not one student sees all 3 therapists. They have their own therapist.
Okay.
But between the 3 therapists and our 6 students, if that makes sense.
I'll get into more of the numbers too.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, that's okay, that's a good question.
This isn't me.
No, this is me. So this is moving on to our overall goal around the school-based mental health services that we have. When I looked at the 21-22 data and the 22-23, so what I did was I made a goal for the next 2 years, this year and next year, that we want to increase the number of students who are accessing school-based mental health therapy services by 2%. Our baseline in the past 2 years, 21-22, 22-23, we had 26 students that received, maybe not for the whole 2 years, but at some point during those 2 years, they received services. Some of our rationale, which I put down below with our youth risk behavior survey, this was from our 21-22 survey, and I think do we need the rationale? I think we're a school that really meets kids where they're at and what they need, but this did just give us some more leverage and some more ideas around what our students are needing. They indicated on the YRBS that 40% of our high school students and 50% of our students that they were experiencing anxiety, and then 28% of our high schoolers and 30% of our middle schoolers indicated experiencing symptoms of depression. Now, these aren't the only 2 areas that our therapists work on. They work on what the students need, but this was just telling to us that, this is an important project that we're working on, and that we're going to continue to support this area. The next slide goes into more of our numbers, which will probably address your question, Amy. We have a total of 28 students this year receiving services from, I think our youngest is 1st grade, so 1st grade to senior in high school. So they go into all 3 of our buildings. The 3 therapists go into all 3 of our buildings to provide services. What I like about this chart, and this is what PCAL provides for us each month, is that we've had a total of 35 referrals made. This year we have had 22 intake meetings, and that's where it gets to the intake worker from PCAL. But we had 6 students continue from last year, so I wanted to add that in there too, so you can see there's 28 being serviced right now. 306 therapy sessions for those students, which is really, really important information for us to have. So you can see that we have increased our students who are accessing school-based mental health services by 2 students. You can see the data there down below. When I do look at this, I do have a question about, we have 35 referrals made. We have 22 students that went to that intake meeting. What happened in between? And we do have an action plan for how we're addressing that. We work closely with PCAL. Rachel's going to go into some more detail about when we meet with them to make sure we're capturing all students that need these services.
Can you remind me, sorry, is this a grant? I'm trying to remember how the funding, okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's the Kids Get Ahead money
Okay.
through the state.
So with our meetings with PCAL, we also get to kind of collaborate with them to help our students in the schools as well, since they are school-based. So our student services team, we meet bi-monthly as a team together just to kind of problem solve around our students and maybe just like specific areas in our school as well. And then especially with the potential referrals to talk about that with our school-based providers. We also get to discuss kind of action plans, treatment plans, maybe some concerns we're seeing within the school that the therapist doesn't get to see with our PCAL therapists as well. They're really great about collaborating with us. I get to like pop in and be like, hey, I have a quick question, or I've seen this. Can you talk about this with the student? But then we do go into more depth 3 times a year with our PCAL therapists, just to really discuss their treatment plan and actually like get to ask like more in-depth questions and spend a little bit more time talking about our kids and how we can best support them, and what information we can relay to our teachers as well, how they can best support them in our school. So it's kind of that's what we've been working on and what we continue to plan on doing with our PCAL.
Jamie, I can't remember if you said this at the beginning, but I think, the 2 bigger benefits or big benefits for this program is, one, students don't miss school. It is, the services are delivered on site. Otherwise, by the time a parent would pick their child up, drive to therapy, come back, that's a significant loss of school time. This is very minimal. Secondly, it's next to impossible to schedule appointments with therapists if you've ever tried to get in. This has broken down those barriers, and so students are able to access this help much quicker. Than if you had to schedule an appointment, which might be 6 months out, 8 months out.
Right. We've had a lot of positive feedback from parents of students that are receiving therapy in the school because of those reasons, because getting them after school might be a challenge. Getting there after school might be a challenge, but just scheduling appointments right now, our therapists are busy and have full schedules.
I was going to say, one of the things that I had asked, but I think you did answer, it was about like being able to find any common themes that might be given within a therapy session, and then being able to take those themes and then build them up within the school, right? Because sometimes it's individual stuff, but if we're finding anxiety over a theme within the school, ways to support that for everyone necessarily. And I hear that you did have those, or you do have those conversations with them afterwards to kind of find any of that, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, and that just started, actually, I think we had one at the end of last year, and then this year we've had 2 where we're able to connect with them. And usually the high school will do them, we've started to do them separately, where our high school student service team will meet to talk about the high school students and middle school and elementary. But yes, then we're able to carry the work forward in a larger scale.
I think this is a really great program, and I think it's a really good lesson for young people to learn that there's no shame in asking for help and that nobody makes it on their own. And so thank you so much for all of your work on this.
You're welcome. Are there
How
any other
long
questions?
do we have this program for, and how do we continue to get the funding?
The Get Kids Ahead funding will be up in December. Now, that has been used for the Comprehensive School Mental Health Academy, that we took a middle school team last year and a high school team this year, and hopefully an elementary team next year. So that money provides that work, but our school-based mental health services are not funded through Get Kids Ahead. That is a program that we have within our school, and parents are involved in making those, parents are at the intake meetings, and it is a part of, it isn't a funding that we provide. It's funded through insurances. However, if a student is unable to, we've worked with PCAL, and if students are unable to fulfill the financial obligation, there's ways we work together on that. So no one's denied services if they want it.
Just a question. It's a fantastic program. Are the actual sessions, if a student went off-site to Wanakee, is it the same? Is it just a real therapy session like you would get?
Yeah, from what I understand, it replicates what you would get when you went into a therapy session. Mm-hmm.
Terrific.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions? Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to the administrative report for Ms. Naylor.
Hi. Okay, so to switch gears a little bit here, we are going to present some bus bids for the 2025-26 school year. So I know that seems odd that we're talking about that now, but due to the length of time that it takes to, the lead time, I guess, for vehicles, we have to approve and order buses now for that school year. So I'm going to introduce Mr. Brad Mosier, our Director of Transportation, who is going to kind of walk you through the 3 bids that have been provided and talk to you a little bit about the pros and cons of all of them and help us come to a decision on which one we should move forward with.
So I believe you've been provided the 3 bids, right? Okay, so so I think I'm going to just start with pointing out some differences in the 2 new buses. I don't think we need to discuss the 3rd one, the used one. It's basically a Freightliner from Nelson's that's the same as the new one. It's just a year older and used. So International Coach, which is Ascendance Truck Center in Marshfield, Wisconsin, they do service in Madison, so that is a possibility. And the other one is a Freightliner bus from Nelson's Bus Service in McFarland. The International bus is a 2025 stock C2 school bus. Stock meaning they build a bunch of buses, put them on a parking lot, and put them up for sale. It is what it is. Nelson's is offering a 2026 C2 school bus built just for us. The International is 72 passenger. The Freightliner is 74 passenger. It has 1 extra seat. That does come in handy to have an extra seat in a bus. You wouldn't think so, but definitely does. Another difference is the International is a 220 horsepower Cummins engine. The Freightliner is a 250 horse Cummins engine. Again, not a huge difference, but when you have a full bus, it certainly does, it will make a difference. The camera systems that we've included in our current buses, we've upgraded, will both be included in both these buses. Same system installed by Nelson's. The International bus has 1 roof hatch. The Freightliner has 2 roof hatches. Yellow roof for the International, white roof for the Freightliner. Rumor is it makes a difference in summer with heat, up to 12 degrees. I don't know if that's fact. I couldn't tell you. Makes sense, right? The Freightliner, in my opinion, has better lighting. They're larger, square-type LED lights as opposed to the cans in a freight or in the International. Those are the big differences. I mean, there's a lot of information there on those bids. This is what stands out to me. The number one thing, 12-month bumper-to-bumper warranty on the International, 3-year, 50,000 miles on the Freightliner. That is huge. We have a bus I took today to Lakeside International in Madison. I'm guessing the service that they were going to perform on a 1.5-year-old bus will not be covered. I don't know that for sure, but that's my guess. Any questions on the comparison of the 2 buses?
What are your thoughts on, I know one of the questions is slightly used or new, and I know the warranties look almost identical, but what are your thoughts on that?
So we've all bought new cars, right? The last car I bought was a used car, right? The thing with that car is I don't plan on keeping it for 15, 16 years. You know, if you buy a used bus compared to a new bus, a year old with miles on it, I don't think for a while it's really going to make a difference. I think when we get into the later years, when it's 10 years old, 14 years old, at end of life, I think that's when it possibly could make a difference. I mean, if I look at our old buses right now, from our oldest to our second oldest, yeah, you can tell the difference. So I think that is where we're going to gain an advantage. Right now, I don't see it. But yes, down the road, I think that there's an advantage of buying a new bus.
For the used bus, I know you said for the 2 new ones, they would both include the cameras, similar to our system. Would the used bus as well include the cameras?
Yes, it would. The used bus would be upgraded to some specifications that I want changed to it, like all LED lighting, some modesty panel things. The cameras will be in there. Yes, that quote was It's essentially the same bus as the new one. Maybe some slight differences with what they do in Illinois. I think maybe the flooring is not marine grade like it would be on a build that we, things like that. Nothing you would actually notice.
And then also the 2-year with the used warranty, and then the 3-year, do we go through 50,000 miles in a year, or in 2 or 3 years? No?
I don't think we will.
Then do you see a difference between 2-year fixes and 3-year-old fixes? No, okay.
No, I can't point any out. No,
Okay.
no. So, my recommendation is for the Nelson's bus. I want a new bus. It's my job, right? So the reason being, 90% of our current fleet is Freightliners. Nelson's, the salesperson, is a local Lake Mills resident. I think there's a little community pride there. He's also been a resource to me a little bit. His daughter has brought parts to my office. It's there's something to be said about that. Nelson's has provided on-site service. They've come to our shed and done repairs. There's something to be said about that. And back to the warranties, there's so many sensors and so many things with the diesel buses now and emissions that you just never know when it's going to throw an error and something goes wrong, and who knows how much that's going to cost. A lot of those errors that I'm seeing, it just takes time to find them. What's wrong? Where's it coming from? So that's something to think about.
Brad, you may have pointed this out already, but with the international, where would services, if you needed it serviced, where would that be done versus the Freightliner?
It's near to Forest. We can have it serviced in the Madison area there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's typically more convenient with the Nelson's buses being local.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's
not
something
not
to
a huge difference in distance, a bit, but it's, I don't know. Nelson's just makes it more convenient.
Are hybrid or electric buses available yet? And if not, when do you foresee that being an option?
Yes, they're available. There's grants out for electric buses. Lots of money out there through the EPA. The obstacle that you need to overcome is having the backbone to plug those buses in. And I haven't explored that yet. I would have to work with Nick and see what it would cost to put an electric grid into a shed somewhere. I've heard upwards of $250,000 just for that. There's a lot of problems with electric buses right now. The last time I was at Lakeland International, I think there was 6 of them sitting there that didn't work. You hear all, Palmyra, I think, had the first one. It was sitting over there in the lot with an issue. I believe insurance is 3 times as much. Battery replacement is up to $90,000. Will it how long will those batteries last? But I don't think we're there yet. Is my opinion on electric buses. I don't think that's something I don't think we want to be one of the front runners on that. I think there's too much cost there yet.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the detail.
Yep.
Great.
I was going to ask, I know bus prices have increased like everything. What do we typically generally look at for a budget when we're looking at a bus each year?
Typically, since I've started, we've been putting in about 100 to 115,000 into the budget.
Okay.
So as these prices increase, we have no choice but to increase that as we go. But we've been sustaining that within our budget that we've had for the past few years.
We also have all the cameras now, which we didn't
Correct.
have before.
Correct.
So that's added on. I mean, I wonder what a bid would be without the cameras, so.
I guess, do we have, is the board's preference to have the discussion now as far as which one we're going to propose, or at the time of the consent agenda? Or, I'm sorry, the time of the action item?
Talk now?
I would say
Oh, yeah.
no.
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, with Brad here, it's nice, otherwise you'd have,
Right, okay.
you know, in case he leaves and before you take action on it, it might be.
I mean, I don't see 10,000 as that big of a difference in the cost. And I'm just looking at taking his recommendation, and that would be my vote, the one that he's recommending.
Yeah, I agree. I think it makes sense if there's, down the road, if there's going to be a difference at end of life, I think that would be worth it.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that point. The benefits seem to be near the end of life of the buses. I do worry a little bit about, is it, I think historically, we've always gotten buses with a few miles on them. And I'm not sure how often new buses are available, but this feels like it might be a precedent-setting kind of decision too, like, do we get a new bus every year kind of thing because of these same reasons? So for me, it really comes back, I guess, in the end, because I can see the benefits in the end of the life, but more about a budgeting question than anything. Basically $10,000. And I'm not, you had mentioned, what was the numbers? We had asked what the budget roughly had, or?
We've been putting in anywhere between 100 and 115 in the past couple of years for buses.
Okay. Of course, it's one bus a year. It's not like we're buying
Correct.
5. I think I'm good with the concept.
I was going to say, I think I was weighing with that fact too of, it's not that much more. You get more in the end. So do you spend more now to get your payback later? Because you never know what the future with the state is going to look like and what kind of a position we'll be in 10 years down the road. But that's kind of where I was juggling, knowing our financial situation right now and the needs that we have. But, like we heard, the payoff later is what is going to help us. And then what does that later look for us? Who knows?
I guess I'm coming at, and I will go with whatever whatever the board, but I don't spend my personal dollars on new vehicles. And I mean, if there's a difference between 2 and 3 years, then I would say, yes, let's go with a new one, but we don't know, a used vehicle, mine, obviously, it's a minivan, it's not a bus, but I guess I would, with less than 15,000 miles, and $10,000, yes, in the grand scheme of things, but $10,000 for additional services for the students,
Yeah, I was thinking, kind of what does $10,000 buy you for the,
but I see
certain-
the appropriateness for the new down the road, that
Yeah.
we always have to look ahead and look at what budgets are going to be 15 years down the road. And that's where, I guess, I would-
because that's really how long these
Mhm.
buses are on the road.
Yeah.
I've never bought a new vehicle either.
Well, I was going to say, when it comes to, new vehicles, I felt like I always felt as though sometimes you have the most issues right off the lot, right? And you never quite know what you're getting. So is that similar in a bus case? Since one already has 15,000 miles, do you kind of already know that the tweaks have been worked out of it and there aren't some of those off the lot issues? Do you see that in buses, or is it not similar like it is with, just normal vehicles?
Well, it could work the other way too. It could be what's hidden, So our new bus last year was a used bus, right? And of course, we're told all the maintenance is done and, all the bugs have been worked out. Well, I don't think that's the case. You know, HDM Truck Center does our service. He said the original oil filter was still on the bus, so that wasn't changed. I don't know that what you're saying holds true or not. Possibly some of the bugs are worked out, but there's also other things that just get ignored and go, oh, you know, we're only keeping them for a year. Let's kick it down the line and not worry about it. There's some of that too.
You know, I had kind of a similar line of thought, like, why would a bus end up on a lot with only 15,000 miles on it?
That's what I was wondering too.
There's a district in Illinois that buys 10 new buses every year. They replace their entire fleet. So those 10 buses go up for sale every year. They're purchased through Nelson's. I don't quite know how that works because I don't know how they can sell buses to Illinois, but somehow it's working.
So it's more about other districts' cycle of how they purchase.
Yeah, and that's their models. They buy new buses every year, 10 of them.
Okay.
And they run new buses every year.
I guess for me too, I'm like a fish out of water when it comes to this stuff. So I totally trust our transportation director. I trust Tasha and her, you know, analyzing of the budget and all of that. So if they're recommending that one, that's kind of where I'm, just because I'm not an expert in this and I won't pretend to be one. So.
All right. All right.
I was going to say, yes, if Tasha, you feel like your magic ball that you're shaking feels like now is a better time than what we could potentially see in 10 years down the road, historically with everything that's happened, then yes, it makes sense to do it now. But, you know, I have that same, like, I don't know what Amy's thinking because that is a big chunk of money too.
All right.
I'm more along the lines of supporting
the first recommendation? Okay, then that's what we'll bring up. All right. Thank you.
All right, you're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
All right. The final administrative report is from our Director of Teaching and Learning.
Good evening. I obviously was just in front of you not that long ago with some information. So the only Act 20 change that has happened since I talked to you was that the Joint Finance Committee released their recommendation for the acceptable curricular resources. Those are the ones that the Early Literacy Curriculum Council came up with. Right now, our teams in K-5 are just wrapping up their pilot of EL Language Arts. Two of the grade levels, first grade and second grade, did a full module, which is 8 to 9 weeks. The other grade levels did 2/3 of a module. And part of that was time-based, and part of that will go into when I talk about the pros and cons of the program. So I will say our second grade team loves it. Can't say enough great things about it. They are in the minority, unfortunately. You know, what they did say is, you know, it has a lot of explicit instruction. That was something that all grade levels said. It's very clearly teaching vocabulary and grammar and word study. It's using great texts, and it has a lot of the high leverage practices that we've been learning about in terms of literacy. However, when they say this lesson should take you 10 minutes, it might actually take you 30, or this lesson could take you, like, it's always longer than what they estimate. It's never shorter. And so then, you know, if they're telling you that you should have this done in a day, it's just not feasible. And one of the other big drawbacks of EL is that there are only 4 major topics for each school year. So we found, for example, I'll use 4th grade. The topic is the Revolutionary War. And so they're talking the Revolutionary War for 8 weeks. And actually, she finished a full module too. I take that back. So we have 3 grade levels. And she had a few students who love it, like wars and battles and all of that in history. That is their thing. She had kids who were done after week 3. And so that's a long time to draw out. I mean, they were doing different things and learning different sides, and, you know, it could be great, but it just, it went too long. And we saw the same thing with first grade. They did birds. They know a lot about birds. And they just said, though, it's just too long on that one thing. And so that was a concern that they had. Beyond that, like the teaching materials just aren't super user-friendly. And there's very limited choice reading. So one of the things as our team started down this journey, one of our priority items was to maintain time within our school day for kids to be able to choose what they're reading, even if it's for a small portion of time. And we found that in a lot of our grade levels, kids just lost that. Because the lessons took too long or it just wasn't an expected part of the curriculum. So that was one of the major concerns. Over the past total of a week, I have now met with all of our grade levels, K-5. Our next pilot is MyView. That's from Savis. It is not on the ELCC list, but it is on the DPI list, so it meets the criteria. And so I've met with them, they've had time to kind of look at it. They have publisher-provided professional learning on April 1st. And then they will do what we're gonna call a soft rollout that first week back from break. Fourth grade will still be testing, doing the Ford exam. And the other grade levels, just because like their PD is 12 to 3 on Monday, it didn't seem wise to start Tuesday at 8. So we're gonna do some like interactive read alouds and things that are tied to the curriculum, but aren't necessarily the lessons, just so that they have time to really sit together and plan. So when I come back in April, I'll be able to tell you how that one is going and initial teacher feedback. And I had talked with Tanya about having a couple teachers come and talk tonight, but they have conferences tomorrow night. So 2 late nights in a row, I'm like, nah, I'll just do it. But in the future, if you'd like, I can have someone else come in and talk too. But like I said, in April, I should be able to give you an update on where we are with MyView. Questions for me?
Just to clarify, because I think I heard you right, but when the legislature reduced DPI's acceptable list, that had no impact on us then?
So the way that Act 20 works is it's written that the Joint Finance Committee gets to finalize the list. And because Act 20 called for the creation of the Early Literacy Curriculum Council, they accepted that group's list over the DPI's. The rubric that group used was actually beyond the scope of what Act 20 calls for. It doesn't mean it's bad. I mean that, right, but it had a couple things that weren't part of the Act 20 legislation, and that's why the other ones weren't selected.
I see.
So we have one, EL is on that one that was accepted. That is one of the curriculum options. MyView was not on that list that was accepted, but it comes down to you don't have to pick something from the list. It's just a recommendation.
Well, so it's not an actual requirement, so to speak, to...
Correct. It's not a requirement that you pick from the list. It's just what they're recommending.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
How many topics does MyView cover within the year? How many?
So MyView has 5 units versus the 4, but theirs are structured a little differently where it's not based on, like the unit's not birds, that's based around an essential question. So for example, 2nd grade is patterns in nature. So they learn all about how we see patterns in nature, and they start locally with like a garden, and then they go to a prairie, and then they start talking about seasons and how do we see patterns in, like, I want to say it's behavior, animal behavior, and then they do a project at the end. All of their units end in a project.
I know with EL, because I taught the 2nd grade one, and we also had Amplify, which we have Amplify. there was a lot of crossover too with the
Yes.
science topics, so I feel like if we have the opportunity to build more background knowledge for kids in science and in literacy, like, because I think that was burning kids out a little bit too, where it's like, oh, we already did birds during literacy and now, and so then teachers feel like they have to continually reinvent the wheel because they want to keep engagement up, and so I'll be
Yes.
curious to see what you think about my
Yeah,
view.
and I would say we were seeing that with some of the connections to, like, some of the science parts of EL were things that they were teaching in science. And they're like, well, our kids already know this, I guess.
And so then it gets pushed out and.
Right. And that's something that, like, you know, Wendy and I have been talking about is how do we keep a lot of that learning of background knowledge and providing adequate time for science and social studies so that we can maintain, you know, that time for true just joy of reading within an ELA block.
Yeah, I appreciate you with the read to self too, because I know at our school, we saw a huge decrease in students wanting to even check out books at the library. Like some during library time, they would just be like, nope, I'm good. And they just didn't have time to read them. And they weren't being introduced to authors and, you know, so I really appreciate that that's part of your focus too, to keep that joy of reading. And so thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you so much. All right. Do we have anyone signed up to community comment? All right. Then we will move on to the consent agenda. And this month's consent agenda includes the approval of the following: February 19th regular meeting minutes, March 4th special meeting minutes, March 4th facilities, finance, personnel committee proceedings, March treasurer's report and vouchers and invoices, and the personnel report. I know that there's been some questions on one of the issues, and we can bring it up in a potential closed session during the personnel committee report in April. So that, but if there's nothing else, would anyone like to pull, report out from the consent agenda? Okay, then.
I'll move the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any discussions? Hearing none, I will ask for a roll call vote.
Brianna Beslick.
Aye.
Ken Imers.
Aye.
Andrea Graham.
Aye.
Kirk Lund.
Aye.
Amy Litcher.
Aye. All right. Moving on to action items, the Start College Now request and early college credit request. So,
Just our standard request for that. It's nice to see that those requests are increasing. That's been one of our goals.
all right. I did see a question. There were some on that list that appeared to, like, one of the students had asked for accounting, intro to business, and math. And I don't know if those I know are classes that we offer, and I just was wondering for number 12, the student number 12, why were those requested?
I don't have the information on those classes, just what I put in board docs that I had received from Carmen and Rachel.
Okay.
As far as looking through that, I know they're usually pretty thorough with the kids and making sure that it aligns to the board policies, so I do not know the answer to that one.
Is that the early college credit one?
Yes, that was the
I
early-
did inquire about that as well. I didn't get the details, but I was told that it has some additional elements that the class that we offer does not. I did ask about that one.
Okay.
Thank you, Tasha.
It was also, that was a good question. I had that one too. There were, I saw, you know, the technical schools have wonderful welding programs, and I saw the 16 credits. I was just wondering, is the student going to school here and trying to do all that, or they just become part of that program?
What have we seen with a lot of the students, especially their senior years, they're not at the high school campus really for a whole lot. They tend to take a good portion of their senior year at Madison College at that point. I think this is one of the things with having one tech ed teacher, that's expected to teach, metals and woods and engineering and welding, that we're not able to offer as many of the classes, but, I see these students obviously going into a career in welding, which is a badly needed profession right now, looking for workers constantly. But yeah, I would say they tend to spend a lot of time on the Madison College campus.
So I guess to clarify a little bit more on that, I appreciate them offering this program, right? Because it is such an amazing thing for them to be able to do. Does that mean then as a senior that they have already gathered and finished all of their credits needed on campus, and these would be like alternatives to things that they would be taking during the year? If they're not spending a lot of time on campus, so that would mean that their credits
They finish their core classes, right?
they have already finished those.
Still counts as an
So if
elective.
they finished up, math and English credits their senior year, then
So then the students with these classes are on the track to still graduation, meaning the
yes.
graduation
Yeah,
requirements.
that's one of the requirements. They have to be in good standing, yes.
Okay.
And I'm learning a lot about this too, and I think that some of them count as high school, they get high school credit for the courses if they're in the same, correct me if I'm wrong, does that?
It can count as elective credit.
Thank you. Okay.
Do you see us needing to expand our technology department in the future with the?
That would be great if we could hire an additional
That's true,
tech
they're
ed
hard to
teacher.
find,
Yeah.
but it's like the cost
Right.
of us doing
Right.
all these courses versus hiring a teacher that can teach however many classes, but yeah. Okay.
And
something to
nursing
look at.
assistants. I saw a lot of nursing assistant classes
Yes.
requested.
Or the other thought with the director of community, what did we just name that? Could there be some internship programs with the local vets in town or other local welders or things like that that would give them the opportunity for apprenticeship options?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I guess I didn't ask for a motion to approve.
So,
I'll move the board approve the Start College Now requests and early college credit requests as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any other questions or discussion? All right. Hearing none, I will ask for a roll call vote on the motion.
Ken Imers,
Aye.
Andrea Graham,
Aye.
Kirk Lund,
Aye.
Brianna Beslick,
Aye.
Amy Litcher.
Aye. All right, the next one is the Fine Arts Weekend Field Trip in September of 2024 in Spring Green. And I would highly recommend, my son participated in this past year, and he very much enjoyed it, and it definitely led into what they were studying in English class. So I was very appreciative, so.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about it too. So I'll move the board approve the Fine Arts Weekend Field Trip from September 13th to 14th, 2024 in Spring Green as presented. It is understood that the board will incur no cost and will accept no liability for any funds lost for any reason.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I will ask for a roll call vote.
Andrea Graham,
Aye.
Kirk Lund,
Aye.
Brianna Beslick,
Aye.
Ken Imers,
Aye.
Amy Litcher.
Aye. All right, moving on to the school bus motion, as we discussed earlier.
I'll move the board to authorize the purchase of the first recommendation. Should I read the?
Yeah, I think so.
The 2026 Freightliner Thomas SAFT Liner C2-74 passenger school bus from Nelson's Bus Service for the 2025-26 school year at a cost not to exceed $135,873.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Again, any further discussion? from earlier? All right, hearing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Kirk Lund,
Aye.
Brianna Beslick,
Aye.
Ken Imers,
Aye.
Andrea Graham,
Aye.
Amy Litcher.
Aye. All right, gifts.
I move the board thank the generous donors for the continued support of the students and programs of the Lake Mills Area School District. First is a $100 donation to The Mill from Dave and Inger Rodell, a $159 donation to the middle school's drama club from Pyramid Event Venue, a donation of 187 used decodable books and resources valued at over $500 to the elementary school's literacy department from Achieve More Reading Center in Sun Prairie, and finally a $3,522.44 donation to the district from the Bank of Lake Mills LCAT debit card usage in 2023.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. And any discussion? Hearing none. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, it's really nice to see these local, the local support on all these things, the books, the mill, supporting the mill, and just the donation from the bank, you know.
All right. I'll ask for a roll call vote on the motion.
Brianna Beslick,
Aye.
Ken Imers,
Aye.
Andrea Graham,
Aye.
Kirk Lund,
Aye.
Amy Litcher.
Aye. All right. Upcoming board agenda items. On Monday, April 15th, 2024 Youth Unity Summit presentation, the nursing contract, information on insurance renewal, and then our reorganizational meeting on Monday, April 22nd, where we will, I'm hopefully be able to talk a little more about what was discussed for like board goals and board procedures and so on and so forth after that reorganizational meeting.
Okay.
So,
We had one other late request, and I can email you after the fact. So as far as overnight trips go, we discovered today that the girls and boys baseball, softball teams had arranged for an overnight tournament. It does require board approval, and the boys' trip is April 5th and 6th. Girls is April 12th and 13th. That is, especially with the 5th and 6th, not before a board meeting. So we have two choices. Either it's a hard lesson learned, knowing that you need board approval to take an overnight trip, or I don't know if any of you, we only need a quorum, would be willing to schedule a special board meeting, even maybe as late, or as early as this week, Thursday, to just approve one action item. But they did not realize they needed.
Are they new
board approval.
coaches or like, who do you think? Whose fault is this?
Well, anybody that's planning an overnight field trip
Right.
should know. Usually the teachers or the ones in charge of the field trips are the ones that come directly to us, as a case of the fine arts trip, Brenda Morris always comes and to us. So I was like, well, there's not a whole lot I can do because I can't.
it's not able to be taken action tonight,
No,
just
'cause
because
we
it's
just-
not on the agenda.
Right, you need 24-hour notice, and they just contacted us today. So I'm like, well,
Well, I was going to say, I will be at the high school portfolio training at 3:30 on Thursday. If anybody
As will I.
else will be
I will
there.
there.
So will I be there too.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
I will not be.
That
So do we need to
know you
post?
lots.
Okay.
Otherwise, I was going to tell them they have to drive back from
Yeah,
Austin.
very good.
From Austin.
And then I guess I would just have a special request about the 22nd, based on that time and how long we think it will go. I just have a special birthday in our house that we would like to celebrate that evening, so that as long as it doesn't go too late, that we could either keep it that night or maybe potentially look at a different date.
I mean, you do have some flexibility in the date of that reorg meeting. It doesn't necessarily have to be on that Monday.
And then we can discuss that, or potentially start even earlier.
Or,
Yeah, at a
Starting early is good.
4 o'clock, 4:30?
4:30.
I can do that.
Okay. And then if need be, we can choose, if it's needed to be work session, then we can choose another date, a following date, either the next week or the following week after that.
Sure.
So, okay, then,
I'll second the motion.
All all approved, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We are approved, or we are adjourned.